trusting the unseen hand. When God fights silent battles for you, mindset and motivation for success, feeling betrayed or hurt, wondering if God even sees what happened, discover the powerful truth about divine justice and why you don't have to fight this battle alone. Tired of waiting for justice? What if letting go of revenge is the key to unlocking your greatest breakthrough? Learn how God handles those who hurt you, often in ways you least expect. When people wrong you, it's tempting to seek payback. But could holding on to anger be blocking your own destiny? Explore the spiritual reasons to trust God's timing and focus on your path forward. My brother, my sister, I need you to really hear me today. God sees everything. You might be navigating a painful season right now, a time where people have spread lies about you, betrayed your trust, or walked away from you as if you meant nothing at all. And maybe in the quiet, aching corners of your heart, you've whispered the question, God, do you even see what they did to me? Do you even care? Let me firmly remind you, He is the God who sits enthroned high above, yet looks down with intimate knowledge of every detail. He is not some distant, detached deity. He is a present, powerful help in times of trouble, and He has been faithfully watching over you this entire time. You see, people often operate under the illusion that they can inflict harm, manipulate situations, and simply get away with it, consequence-free. They might offer a smile to your face while secretly undermining you, taking your inherent kindness as a sign of weakness. And often when you've poured out your very best for them, they repay your generosity with stinging betrayal. But I want you to grasp this profound truth today. God saw it all. He witnessed the silent tears you cried when no one else was around. He saw those long, restless nights when sleep wouldn't come because your heart felt impossibly heavy. He observed how you chose integrity, keeping your mouth shut when you easily could have exposed their wrongdoing. He saw your unwavering faithfulness even when you felt utterly broken inside. And I absolutely need you to know deep in your spirit today, God does not forget. So why does it sometimes feel like nothing is happening to those who caused us pain? Could our human perspective be missing the bigger picture? The problem often lies in us getting caught up searching for human justice. We desperately want to see them pay for the hurt they inflicted. We desire for them to suffer in the same way we suffered. But let me gently tell you, God operates on a timeline far grander and more intricate than our human understanding. Just because it appears they're getting away with their actions doesn't mean they truly are. The spiritual principle remains unwavering. God is not mocked. Whatever a person sows, whether good or bad, that is precisely what they will eventually reap. This eternal law means every lie told, every manipulative tactic employed, every act of injustice committed, they will ultimately have to answer for it. But here's the crucial key for your own peace. It is not your job to make them pay. It's not your responsibility to force them to see the error of their ways. It's certainly not your assignment to constantly try and prove to them that you were the genuine one, the one who was wronged. Release that burden. Now, why? Because God Himself will handle it. Oh, I feel this resonating deeply for someone listening right now. You've been wrestling intensely with the lingering pain of what they did to you. You've been desperately trying to understand why God allowed it to happen in the first place. And I need you to hear this clearly. Just because God allowed it does not mean He approved of it. Sometimes He permits people to inflict hurt precisely so He can strategically remove them from your life's path. Sometimes He allows the sting of betrayal specifically to position you for something far greater, something you couldn't have reached otherwise. Think about it. If Judas had never betrayed Jesus, the pivotal event of the cross would never have occurred. And without the cross, the path to salvation wouldn't have been open. This reveals a profound truth. The betrayal wasn't the final chapter. It was a necessary setup for a much greater purpose. Are you holding on to relationships God has already judged, delaying your own blessing in the process? Some of you listening are currently trying desperately to hold on to people God has clearly exposed. You're shedding tears over relationships that God has already passed judgment on. He intentionally showed you their heart's true condition. He allowed you to see their authentic colors, stripped of pretense. And yet, despite this clear revelation, you still find yourself wanting to keep them close. But I hear the Spirit of the Lord declaring today, let them go. You absolutely do not need to cling tightly to individuals who were only ever meant to occupy a temporary season in your life's journey. When God exposes something or someone, He is giving you a crucial warning, a divine heads up. And if you choose to ignore that warning, if you don't heed His guidance, you will inevitably delay the incredible blessings He has specifically prepared and designated for you. So stop crying over the people He has purposefully removed. Stop chasing after those who willingly walked away. Stop exhausting yourself trying to explain your heart and intentions to people who were never equipped or destined to understand your unique path. Why? Because God is your vindicator. Listen closely. Sometimes God strategically allows people to think they've gotten away with hurting you because He, in His infinite mercy, is giving them a precious chance to repent. He extends mercy even towards those who have knowingly done wrong. But do not mistake God's profound patience for His implicit permission. If they refuse to turn from their ways, if they neglect to make things right, He will eventually step in. And when God Himself intervenes, trust me, it won't be a pleasant experience for them. Could focusing on their downfall actually be keeping you from your own rise? This is precisely why you don't need to waste another moment of your precious time trying to prove yourself or your innocence. You don't have to keep glancing over your shoulder, anxiously wondering when they'll finally realize the gravity of what they did. When God deals with them directly, they will know. When He makes His move, they will see it clearly. But here's the beautiful part. By the time they finally grasp the reality of their actions and God's intervention, you will likely be so far ahead, so incredibly blessed, so enveloped in divine favor that you won't even be thinking about them anymore. Somebody needs to let this truth sink deep into their spirit right now. God is handling it. He has been meticulously handling it from the very moment the offense occurred. You might not perceive His movements yet with your physical eyes, but rest assured, He is diligently working behind the scenes on your behalf. That's precisely why you don't have to harbor bitterness. That's why you don't need to deplete your valuable energy plotting revenge. That's why you can refuse to walk around carrying the heavy, toxic burden of unforgiveness in your heart. Why? Because God is ultimately, completely, and sovereignly in control. Your only assignment now is to keep walking forward in faith. Keep trusting His plan. Keep believing in His promises, and keep resolutely moving forward. God is preparing to reveal to you exactly why He permitted certain things to happen. He is getting ready to lift you up, to elevate you, right in front of the very people who maliciously tried to break your spirit. And when He does that, the only response you'll be capable of is lifting your hands in awe and gratitude, declaring, "Thank you, Lord." Are you trying to fight battles God has already won for you? I know you feel it, the immense weight of it all. The sharp sting of betrayal, the crushing disappointment, the lingering heartbreak. You've been carrying this heavy load, wrestling with it internally, constantly trying to decipher why. Why did it happen? Why did they do what they did? Why did God seem to allow it? But let me speak this truth directly into your spirit today. This particular battle is fundamentally not yours to fight. You don't have to engage in this one. You don't need to prove anything to anyone involved. You absolutely do not have to spend another single sleepless night mentally replaying the hurtful events over and over again. Why? Because God has already handled it. You see, we humans have this ingrained tendency, this deep-seated desire to want to fix things ourselves. We crave making people understand the depth of our pain. We yearn for them to truly see what they did, to acknowledge the hurt they caused, perhaps even to feel a fraction of what we felt. But let me pose a critical question. What if they never do? What if they never utter the words, "I'm sorry"? What if they never change their ways? What if they remain blissfully unaware or willfully ignorant of how deeply they wounded you? Are you going to remain stuck indefinitely in that place of pain? Are you prepared to put your entire future on hold, endlessly waiting for closure from people who may never be capable or willing to provide it? Absolutely not. Because God never called you to endlessly fight battles over which He has already declared decisive victory. Is your energy being drained trying to earn validation from people incapable of giving it? Oh, I sense this so powerfully right now. Somebody listening has been utterly exhausting themselves, spiritually and emotionally, trying desperately to prove their inherent worth to individuals who were never destined or equipped to recognize it in the first place. You've been draining yourself emotionally, mentally, spiritually, striving relentlessly to make people understand things they simply lack the capacity or willingness to comprehend. But hear me clearly today. God saw it all. He witnessed the betrayal firsthand. He observed the injustice. He heard the lies spoken against you. And His divine instruction to you now is simply, stand still. I've got this one. The challenge, however, is that we humans generally don't like to stand still. We struggle with letting go. We crave control. We want to know precisely when God is going to intervene. We desire to understand how He's going to resolve the situation. But that's fundamentally not how faith operates. True faith is demonstrated when you consciously step back, release your grip, and declare, "God, I trust you implicitly. Even when I cannot see the path forward, I trust you. Even when the situation feels profoundly unfair, I trust you. Even when I don't understand your methods or timing, I trust you." When you reach that place of surrender, when you fully let go of the exhausting need to control the outcome, that is the precise moment God steps fully into the situation and begins to fight powerfully on your behalf. Understand this: the enemy, the force opposing your progress, desperately wants you distracted. He wants you so intensely focused on the hurt, the offense, the injustice, that you completely miss the incredible work God is simultaneously doing in your life. He wants you entangled in fighting battles that don't even rightfully belong to you. He desires to see you wrapped up tightly in bitterness, consumed by thoughts of revenge, perpetually stuck in a frustrating cycle of pain and anger. But let me declare this over you. You simply don't have time for that nonsense. You don't have the luxury of being caught up in pointless drama, remaining stuck in reflections of what was, or endlessly replaying past conversations over which God has already decisively closed the door. Why? Because the destination God is leading you towards is far too significant, far too glorious for you to afford being distracted by past hurts. What if the pain you experience was actually God redirecting you towards your true purpose? I understand it's incredibly difficult to watch people walk away nonchalantly, seemingly as if they never truly cared. I know it's profoundly painful to see individuals move on with their lives as if your presence never mattered. But that hurt, that perceived indifference, that is not your fight to engage in. That heavy burden is not yours to carry. The same God who called you into purpose, the God who anointed you for a specific assignment, the God who has faithfully brought you this far on your journey is clearly saying now, let me handle this. And understand this crucial point. When God himself steps into a situation, when he takes complete control, he doesn't merely settle the existing battle. He strategically elevates you in the midst of the process. Pause for a moment. Somebody truly needs to grasp this revelation. The attack you endured wasn't fundamentally about you as a person. It was aimed squarely at your purpose. It was about the incredible potential, the divine gifts that God has intentionally placed deep inside of you. The enemy wouldn't be fighting you with such relentless intensity if there wasn't something truly great, something world-changing, deposited within your life. That painful betrayal. It wasn't just a personal attack, it was a calculated distraction. That stinging rejection. It wasn't merely about emotional pain. It was divine redirection. And the very moment you make the conscious decision to stop engaging in battles that don't rightfully belong to you is the exact moment you liberate yourself to fully step into the magnificent destiny God has ordained specifically for you. You see, sometimes God permits people to turn against you because he, in his infinite wisdom, knows they cannot accompany you to the higher places he is taking you. Sometimes he allows the experience of hurt so that you finally release attachments to things or people you should have let go of a long, long time ago. If left to your own devices, you might never have walked away. You might have kept clinging on, desperately hoping they'd change, hoping they'd finally come around, hoping they'd eventually recognize your true worth. But God, in his wisdom and love, sometimes has to allow things to break, to shatter, precisely so he can construct something infinitely better in its place. How do you respond when hurt happens? Will you let it define you or refine you? So the critical question becomes, what do you do now in this moment of understanding? Do you choose to hold on to festering anger? Do you allow the insidious roots of bitterness to take hold deep within your heart? Do you continue to fight relentlessly, trying to force them to see the value they lost? Number. The empowered response is this: you stand still, internally grounded. You place your unwavering trust in God's plan. and you keep resolutely moving forward. Because here's the profound reality. While your focus might still be lingering on them and their actions, God's primary focus is entirely on you. While you might be watching what they are doing or not doing, God is diligently preparing something far greater, something tailor-made for your future. And when He inevitably makes His move, when He brings about your vindication, when He lifts you up to new heights, it won't be because you fought tirelessly for it in your own strength. It will be solely because He orchestrated it on your behalf. God is clearly saying to you today, let it go. Stop fighting battles that aren't yours. Stand still in faith and watch expectantly what I am about to do in your life. Just because you don't currently see God moving tangibly doesn't, for 1 second, mean He isn't actively working behind the scenes. Just because it looks like they got away with hurting you doesn't mean they actually did in the grand scheme of divine justice. Just because the storm might be raging fiercely around you right now doesn't imply that God has somehow lost control of the situation. Are you demanding immediate justice while forgetting the mercy you yourself have received? We live in a world that constantly conditions us to believe justice should be swift and immediate. If somebody wrongs us, we instinctively want to see them fall and fall quickly. If they lied about us, we demand immediate exposure of the truth. If they betrayed our trust, our human nature cries out for them to pay dearly for it right now. But God operates on a completely different eternal time scale. God doesn't need to rush His processes. He doesn't feel compelled to react impulsively based on human provocation. He moves with divine precision, with unwavering purpose. And when He ultimately decides it's the right time to step in, His justice is always perfect, always righteous, always complete. This very aspect, the waiting, is where so many of us stumble and struggle because we fundamentally dislike waiting. We want God to show up now, according to our impatient schedule. We desire to witness them reaping what they sowed immediately. But let me gently challenge your perspective with this question. If God had punished you the very instant you made a mistake, where would you honestly be today? If God had exposed your shortcomings the first time you messed up, would you have been truly ready to face those consequences? You see, we readily embrace and celebrate God's mercy when it's extended towards us. Yet we often demand swift judgment when it concerns others who have wronged us. And that's precisely why we must cultivate trust in God's infinite wisdom, believing that He truly knows what He's doing. He often grants people time and opportunity to repent. He gives them space, a chance to make things right. But if they persistently refuse that grace, if they continue walking proudly in arrogance, if they stubbornly refuse to acknowledge their wrongdoing, then He steps in. And when that divine intervention occurs, you can be absolutely certain that justice will be served fully and completely. Why does it sometimes seem like those who hurt us are thriving? Could there be a deeper process at play? Now, I know what some of you might be thinking right now. You're saying, but why does it look like they're winning? Why does it seem like the very people who hurt me deeply are thriving and prospering? Oh, I intimately understand that specific kind of pain. I know exactly what it feels like to watch the individuals who deliberately tried to destroy you seemingly walk around untouched, successful, as if they did absolutely nothing wrong. It's incredibly frustrating. It's profoundly painful. And if you're not vigilant, that sense of injustice, that feeling of unfairness can completely consume you. But please hear me clearly today. What might appear as a blessing in their life could actually be a setup for an eventual fall. What looks like outward success might simply be God allowing them to build themselves up high, only to ultimately bring them low, demonstrating His sovereignty. Because the unchanging Word declares, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." This eternal principle guarantees that every action inevitably carries a consequence. Every deed prompts a return, and absolutely no one escapes the perfect justice of God. Sometimes God will intentionally allow them to continue seemingly unaffected for a specific season, because He is meticulously setting the stage, arranging circumstances in a way that will ultimately bring Him the maximum glory when His justice unfolds. Sometimes He lets them appear to be winning precisely because when their inevitable fall occurs, there will be absolutely no denying that it was His sovereign hand at work. And here's the liberating part. By the time God's justice fully manifests in their situation, you likely won't even be thinking about them anymore. By the time God deals decisively with them, you will be so abundantly blessed, so significantly elevated, so far advanced on your own path, that you genuinely won't even care about their outcome. This is why you absolutely cannot afford to waste your precious energy constantly watching their life unfold. Stop compulsively checking their social media profiles. Stop tuning into the gossip people are spreading about them. Stop trying desperately to ascertain if they are suffering yet. That is simply not your concern. God is handling it. And when He does, you don't want to be so preoccupied with witnessing their downfall that you completely miss your very own breakthrough moment. What if the waiting period for justice is actually God's timing for your healing and elevation? You see, God doesn't just deal with those who inflicted hurt upon you. He simultaneously works to heal you in the midst of that process. And that is the crucial truth the enemy desperately doesn't want you to realize. The enemy's strategy is to keep you stuck in bitterness, obsessed with plotting revenge, perpetually consumed by the memory of what they did. But if you can consciously choose to let that go, if you intentionally shift your focus back onto God and His promises for you, you will begin to clearly see that He has actually been blessing you abundantly all along. While you were anxiously waiting for them to fall, God was diligently building you up. While you were intently watching their lives, God was strategically positioning you for your next level. And when you finally truly release it, release the need for revenge, release the worry about the timing, when you finally stop obsessing about when God is going to make His move, that is the precise moment you step fully into the incredible destiny He has prepared for you. So let me ask you directly, are you willing, truly willing, to trust God's perfect timing? Are you willing to hold on to faith, believing that just because you don't yet see His hand moving doesn't mean He isn't actively working on your behalf? Because if you are, if you can genuinely release the situation into His capable hands and truly trust that He is in absolute control, you will witness His divine justice unfold in a manner far surpassing anything human effort could ever accomplish. And when it finally happens, you'll look back and realize with profound clarity, It was never ultimately about them at all. It was always about you, about your spiritual growth, about your deep healing, about fulfilling your unique destiny. God's justice is perfect, complete, and always on time. You don't have to carry the weight of worry. You don't have to engage in futile fights. You don't have to anxiously wonder when or how it will all resolve. Simply trust Him, because He is already working everything out for your ultimate good. Is the pain you're holding on to distracting you from the destiny God has planned? There inevitably comes a pivotal moment in your journey when you must make a conscious decision. What holds greater importance, your God-given destiny or the persistent distraction of past hurts? Because let me tell you with certainty, the enemy operates with strategic cunning. He doesn't launch attacks randomly or without reason. He studies you meticulously. He watches your patterns, observes your vulnerabilities. He knows precisely which buttons to push, exactly which old wounds to press upon, and precisely which people to strategically send into your life specifically to derail you, to keep you from walking in the absolute fullness of the incredible destiny God has planned for you. And if you're not spiritually discerning, if you're not vigilant, you can easily spend years, even decades, fruitlessly fighting battles that were never truly yours to engage in, remaining stuck in debilitating cycles that were intentionally designed to prevent you from moving forward into your promised land. You see, one of the enemy's most effective tricks is to keep your focus perpetually fixed on the sharp pain of what they did, so that you completely fail to step into the glorious promise of what God is currently doing and preparing for you. He desperately wants you to continually rehearse the hurt in your mind. He wants you to remain anchored in that toxic place of anger, that draining space of resentment, that exhausting state of constantly needing external validation or an apology that may never come. But hear me clearly. When you allow what they did to define who you are today, you are essentially handing them power over your life. Power that absolutely does not belong to them. You are inadvertently allowing people who were perhaps only meant to serve as a difficult lesson to become a permanent limitation on your future potential. But God never called you to be limited. He called you to be victorious. He called you to rise far above the ashes of betrayal and pain. He called you to experience deep, profound healing. Are you waiting for an apology that may never come while your healing waits for your choice? I understand it's incredibly challenging to move forward when there's been no apology offered. I know it's agonizingly hard to truly let go when the person who caused the pain refuses to acknowledge the depth of the hurt they inflicted. But let me share a liberating truth with you. Your personal healing is not intrinsically tied to their confession. Your ultimate breakthrough is not dependent on their eventual realization or remorse. If you are passively waiting for them to finally say, "I'm sorry," before you grant yourself permission to move forward, you could potentially be waiting indefinitely, even forever. Because the hard reality is, some people will never admit their wrongdoing. Some individuals will never provide the sense of closure that you believe you desperately need from them. But God Himself is speaking directly to your heart today, saying, "I am your closure. I am your complete healing. I am your full restoration." So make the choice today. Let it go. Let go of the exhausting need to prove anything to anybody. Release the draining desire to be fully understood by people who were perhaps never equipped or destined to comprehend your unique journey. Let go of the immense weight you've been carrying, trying to force them to see the value they lost or the pain they caused, things they stubbornly refuse to acknowledge. Because the very moment you consciously release that grip, the moment you stop looking backward with regret or longing, the moment you make the unwavering decision in your mind that nothing and no one is worth forfeiting the incredible future God has prepared for you, that is the precise moment true, profound freedom begins in your life. And that specific point of liberation is the part the enemy absolutely doesn't want you to realize or embrace. He doesn't particularly mind you being hurt. What he vehemently opposes is you becoming healed. He's content with you remaining bitter. He fiercely resists you becoming better. Why? Because when you choose healing, you effectively break the negative cycle. When you courageously move on, you powerfully demonstrate that what they did, no matter how painful, could not ultimately stop what God had sovereignly ordained for your life. When you steadfastly refuse to be trapped by the poison of resentment, you step into a level of inner strength, resilience, and authority that the enemy never ever wanted you to discover or possess. Are you replaying the past instead of walking into the future God has for you? Oh, I feel this resonating deeply for someone right now. You have been carrying something heavy for far too long. You've been tightly holding on to an offense, a hurt, a disappointment that should have been released ages ago. You keep mentally replaying the scenario, endlessly analyzing every detail, perpetually wondering if things could have somehow unfolded differently. But God is emphatically saying to you today, enough. It is definitively time to move forward. It's time to deliberately stop gazing backward at what was and start intentionally walking forward into what is and what will be. Because understand this critical principle: the longer you choose to hold on to the things that hurt you, the longer you inevitably delay the blessings and healing that are meant to restore you. And here's an undeniable truth: there are specific places God is actively trying to lead you, higher levels He wants you to reach, where that old pain simply cannot accompany you. There are incredible blessings already designated with your name on them, blessings that specifically require a healed, whole version of you to receive them. There are significant doors of opportunity waiting to swing open, doors that will remain firmly shut until you consciously choose to lay that heavy burden down at His feet. So I need you to make a definitive decision today. Are you going to remain stuck where you currently are, replaying the past? Or are you going to bravely trust that God truly has something far better in store for you? Are you going to continue feeding the pain by giving it your precious mental and emotional energy? Or are you going to choose to starve it by resolutely refusing to grant it any more power over your thoughts and feelings? Are you going to allow what they did to dictate the trajectory of your entire future? Or are you going to boldly declare, I will not be bound or defined by what previously broke me? Because the very moment you decide with unwavering conviction to move forward, all of heaven mobilizes to back you up. The moment you refuse to stay mentally and emotionally stuck in what was, God Himself accelerates the manifestation of what will be in your life. The moment you intentionally lay that burden, that hurt, that resentment at His feet, He begins a powerful work of restoration, renewal, and elevation in your life, lifting you up in such a remarkable way that it becomes utterly undeniable to everyone watching that His sovereign hand has been upon your life throughout the entire process. So stop looking back. Stop waiting for them to finally validate your worth. Stop wasting energy trying to make logical sense of things that were never meant to make sense from a human perspective. God is clearly saying, trust me. I have already gone ahead of you. I have already prepared the way forward. I have already orchestrated what comes next. But you simply cannot grasp hold of the glorious future ahead if your hands are still desperately clinging to the pains and disappointments of the past. Let it go completely and watch in awe what God is about to do. Could some departures that felt like losses actually be divine protection for your destiny? There inevitably comes a time, a point of clarity on your journey, when you must come to the profound realization that not everybody who walked away from your life represented a loss. Not every person who left was a mistake or a tragedy. Understand this deeply. Some people had to go. Because if they had been allowed to stay, their presence, their influence, their limitations would have inadvertently contaminated the sacred work God was diligently trying to accomplish in you. And I know it hurt deeply when they left. It likely didn't make any logical sense at the time. It probably felt like raw betrayal, stark abandonment, painful rejection. But if you could only glimpse your life from God's eternal perspective, if you could truly comprehend the immense weight and significance of the calling placed upon your life, you would understand with certainty that some individuals had to be strategically removed. They had to be ushered out because they were never equipped, destined, or meant to have access to the higher realms, the greater territories where God is purposefully taking you. And acknowledging this truth can be incredibly difficult, because we are inherently emotional beings. We form attachments. We invest our hearts. We generously give our love, our precious time, our valuable energy. And so, when people choose to walk away, it often feels like something invaluable has been unjustly stolen from us. But let me offer you this liberating perspective. If they possess the ability to walk away, it signifies they were never truly meant to stay for the long haul. If they could exit your life with relative ease, then their assigned season in your story had already naturally concluded. Therefore, you absolutely must stop chasing after people whom God has already decisively dismissed from your path. You must cease grieving over relationships for which God has already firmly closed the door. Because every single time you attempt to cling desperately to something or someone God is actively trying to remove, you inevitably delay the arrival of the next blessing, the next relationship, the next opportunity that is specifically designed and supposed to come into your life. Are you trusting God's pruning process even when it involves painful goodbyes? You see, God operates with perfect intentionality. He doesn't allow people to simply leave your life randomly or without a divine purpose. Sometimes their departure is His way of actively protecting you from hidden dangers or future heartbreaks you cannot currently see. Sometimes He is strategically making room, clearing space for something far greater, something more aligned with your destiny to enter. And sometimes He is fundamentally testing your trust. Will you continue to hold on to him firmly even when he removes something or someone you thought you desperately needed? Will you trust his overarching plan even when the process feels incredibly painful or confusing? Will you choose to believe that he truly knows what is ultimately best for you, even when letting go hurts profoundly? Because let's be completely honest with ourselves. Some of the very people we are currently shedding tears over were, in reality, never truly beneficial for our growth or well-being to begin with. Some of the individuals we are mourning were perhaps the exact ones who were consistently draining our energy, secretly speaking against us behind closed doors, or would have inevitably sabotaged our bright future if God, in his infinite mercy, had allowed them to remain connected to us. But he, in his loving foresight, removed them. And yet, instead of offering thanks for his protection, we often get stuck wallowing in our hurt feelings. We start questioning his motives, endlessly looking back as if we lost something incredibly valuable, when in reality what we actually gained was our precious freedom. Oh, I feel this strongly for someone. God didn't take them from you. He rescued you from them. God didn't allow that door to close merely to punish you. He closed it decisively to protect you. God didn't orchestrate the end of that relationship simply to inflict pain. He ended it purposefully to facilitate your healing. And the sooner you fully grasp and internalize this profound truth, the sooner you can stop wasting your valuable tears and emotional energy over people who were never genuinely assigned to walk alongside you towards your ultimate destiny in the first place. Can you embrace being set apart, even if it means outgrowing people you once loved? Understand this vital principle. When God is preparing to elevate you to a new level, he often has to separate you first. He has to perform some necessary pruning, cutting some things off. He has to intentionally strip away the distractions. Why? Because some people were perfectly comfortable with you where you were, but they simply weren't equipped or prepared to handle the person you are becoming or the places you are going. Some individuals genuinely love the old version of you, the less challenging version, but they wouldn't have been able to cope with the anointed, elevated, powerful version of you that God is currently raising up. And if you had insisted on keeping them closely tethered to you, they inevitably would have tried to pull you back down, keep you playing small, or talk you out of pursuing your God-given purpose. So release any guilt associated with outgrowing people. Stop feeling bad because God is actively shifting you, stretching your capacity, maturing your character. You absolutely cannot shrink yourself, dim your light, or compromise your calling simply to make other people feel comfortable around you. You cannot afford to hold on to relationships, no matter how familiar, that actively prevent you from walking fully and boldly in the specific destiny God has ordained for you. And listen very carefully to this promise. When God removes something or someone, he always replaces it. When he takes something away, he invariably brings something better, something more aligned, something more beneficial. But you cannot possibly receive what's coming next if your hands are still tightly clenched around what was. You cannot fully step into your next glorious season if you're still mentally and emotionally clinging desperately to the remnants of the last one. I strongly urge you today, shift your focus decisively. Stop fixating on who left. Stop worrying about who walked away. The people who are truly meant to walk alongside you in this upcoming season of your life will not have to be begged, coerced, or forced to stay. The ones God has specifically assigned to your life will naturally align with your calling. They will genuinely celebrate your growth. They will actively push you towards fulfilling your destiny. And when those divine connections manifest, you will eventually look back and realize with crystal clarity that what you initially perceived as a painful loss was, in fact, your greatest gain. So hear me clearly today. Release it all. Release the lingering pain. Release the crushing disappointment. Release the heavy burden of regret. Stop fighting futile battles to hold on to things God has already definitively declared are over. Because if you truly trust Him, if you genuinely believe deep down that He knows what is absolutely best for you, then you can find profound rest in the unwavering fact that every departure, every closed door, every painful goodbye was intricately woven into His perfect sovereign plan for your life. And when it's all said and done, when you see the full picture unfold, you will recognize that He never took anything away from you without the clear intention of ultimately giving you something infinitely greater in return. When hurt happens, will you trust God's justice instead of seeking your own revenge? There inevitably comes a moment, a point of spiritual maturation, when God makes it unequivocally clear. Vengeance is not your responsibility. It belongs solely to Him. And I recognize that this can be an incredibly difficult truth to embrace, especially when you've been deeply wronged, brutally betrayed, or unfairly mistreated. Because ingrained in our human nature is a powerful desire for justice, often skewed towards retribution. We inherently want people to feel the same pain they inflicted upon us. We crave for them to experience the suffering they put us through. But here lies the fundamental problem. When you take matters of justice into your own hands, when you attempt to settle the score yourself, you effectively remove yourself from God's divine process and timing. When you try to exact revenge, you step outside of His established divine order. And the plain truth is, your human version of justice, often tainted by anger and hurt, will never compare to the perfect, righteous, and ultimately restorative justice of God. You see, God perceives things you cannot possibly see. He understands the intricate details, the hidden motives, the eternal perspective. He knows the full weight and significance of the calling He has placed upon your life. He knows the incredible destinations He is leading you towards. And He also knows with absolute certainty that seeking revenge is a dangerous trap set by the enemy. The adversary desperately wants you to become so utterly consumed with the idea of getting even that you completely lose sight of your God-given purpose. He wants you to expend so much precious energy trying to prove a point or win an argument that you never actually reach the destiny God has prepared for you. But hear me and hear me well. Your future is far too magnificent, your potential too vast to waste invaluable time trying to pay people back for past hurts. Your calling is far too important, your assignment too critical to be perpetually distracted by individuals who were never meant to accompany you on your journey forward. You do not have to fight for yourself. God Himself will fight your battles for you. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. God Himself will be your ultimate vindication. Can you trust God's process even when His justice looks different than you expect? And when God personally handles a situation, He doesn't merely deal with the offending person. He addresses the underlying spirit that motivated the harmful action. He doesn't just correct the outward offense. He strategically uproots the very thing the very influence that attempted to take you out and derail your destiny. That is precisely why you must trust him implicitly. That is why you must resist the powerful, tempting urge to retaliate or seek revenge. Because when God himself steps into a situation, he doesn't just settle the immediate matter. He powerfully shifts the entire spiritual atmosphere surrounding it. Oh, I know it often feels like they got away with it. I know it frequently looks like they are thriving while you might still be struggling to recover. But please do not let superficial appearances fool you. Just because the issue hasn't been visibly addressed yet according to your timeline doesn't mean it won't be dealt with decisively in God's perfect timing. Just because they might be walking around acting as if they did absolutely nothing wrong doesn't mean God didn't witness every single detail. You don't need to constantly remind him of what happened. He already knows. He saw the betrayal. He saw the lies. He saw the manipulation. And rest assured, in due time, he will handle it. And let me emphasize this. When God deals with a matter, he deals with it completely. He leaves no loose ends untied. He allows nothing crucial to slip through the cracks. But for his perfect justice to unfold, you must step out of the way. You have to consciously release control and allow him to be God in the situation. Because if you attempt to fix it yourself in your limited human capacity, you might inadvertently make things worse. If you try to handle it solely in your own strength, driven by emotion, you could potentially mess up the intricate setup God was carefully orchestrating behind the scenes. Recognize this: some battles are simply not yours to fight. Some wrongs are not yours to personally make right. Some complex situations are solely meant to be placed entirely and trustingly into God's capable hands. And here's another profound truth. Sometimes God's justice doesn't manifest in the way we expect or even desire. Sometimes instead of directly punishing them, he chooses to humble them. Instead of breaking them down, he works to change their hearts. And that can be difficult for our human nature to accept, because often we secretly want to see them suffer. We want them to feel the sting of pain just as we felt it. But God is always after something far bigger, far more eternal than simply making people pay for their mistakes. His ultimate goal is often transformation. He seeks redemption. Because while you primarily see what they did, God simultaneously sees who they were created to be, their potential for change. And sometimes the greatest form of divine justice isn't their public downfall, but their private repentance and transformation. Conclusion: 1. So release the burden of seeking revenge. Trust that God sees, he knows, and he will handle those who hurt you in his perfect time and way. Focus your energy not on their actions, but on your own healing, growth, and the incredible destiny God has for you. Stand still, trust his process, and watch him work wonders. 2. Are you ready to let go of the fight and trust God's justice? Make a conscious decision today to release the hurt, forgive for your own freedom, not theirs, and shift your focus to your God-given purpose. What specific burden are you handing over to him right now? 3. Dealing with hurt is never easy, but understanding God's role brings peace. His justice is perfect, his timing is strategic, and his focus is often on your elevation and healing, not just their punishment. How does knowing God is handling it change how you view your past hurts and approach your future? Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to watch our next videos.